Hello, everyone. I'm Robert Franz, music director of the Windsor Symphony Orchestra, and I'm thrilled to be sitting down today to talk to Philip Chiu, our piano soloist for our last Masterworks of the season. Welcome, Philip.
Hey, Robert. Hello, everyone. So pleased to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, is this your first time in Windsor?
This will be, I'm not sure. I grew up, part of my life was in London, Ontario, which is not so far. So
No.
I'm sure I've come by, but professionally, I think it will be my first time coming through.
Excellent. Well, we can't wait to have you. I'm sure you know that about 5 or 6 years ago, we had a very generous family buy us a brand new Steinway piano.
Oh,
Yes. So we have quite a beautiful instrument for you to perform on.
And that makes a difference for a pianist. We don't get to carry anything on our backs. And so it's nice.
It's true.
Something nice locally.
It's true. So the concerto that you're performing on this concert is the first piano concerto of Tchaikovsky, which is arguably one of the most famous concertos of any instrument in the repertoire. I wonder, for you, what is the process going to be like to prepare for that concerto, knowing that every pianist worth their weight in salt has played it at some point?
Oh, man. That's a great question, Robert. There's all kinds of pieces like that in our rep, right? We're just lucky as pianists that we were sort of the favorite child of so many composers. And so there's so many great pieces out there that are well known. Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven, or a few of his sonatas, in fact, or Clair de Lune, Debussy. And for me, when it came around time to learning some of those, or like this with the Tchaikovsky, the thing I actually tried to do is isolate myself from recordings. I isolate myself from any baggage that piece may have, which is going to have so much out. Because as you said, everyone's learned it, everyone's conducted it, everyone's heard it. And what I like to do is first try to approach the score as, I put this in huge quotations, as purely as possible. You know what I mean? I'm not a purist by any stretch of the imagination. And you can't escape all the things that and the context you come to a piece with. But I try to look at it from scratch. I try to forget what I may have heard about it. And I try to reevaluate it on its own terms and look at the score. I see where it's coming from. I will listen to other music written around the same time. So I'm going to listen to his Third Symphony. I'm going to listen to what else? Sleeping Beauty, I think, was written or Swan Lake had just come out just before it. So I'm going to listen to his ballet. I'm going to listen to the symphony. I'm going to listen to anything else that's happening and try to get a sense of what's going on. And then when I'm sort of through that whole process, then maybe I'll deign to listen to Argerich or Clyburn or Kissin, and get a sense of how they took that.
And when you think about this piece, this concerto, what are kind of one or two big takeaways that you get from the concerto that maybe you can share with our audience that they could expect to hear in the performance of the piece?
I'm going to have to play really big, really loud, work terribly hard. I think Tchaikovsky, beautiful melodies, just heartbreakingly, like one of the greatest melodists, I think, of classical music, of the 19th century. There are just some tunes, like that first tune that you hear at that very opening. We basically never hear it again. My understanding, and I'm going to pour through that score, is that it sort of appears in small little funny motivic ways, but basically we never hear it in that form again. And there's something very beautiful about that as well, that he catches your attention right at the start with something that is so sweeping. And yeah, there is the virtuosity. I think that's really exciting to see. I don't think he wrote a piano concerto only because he was trying to dig deep into pathos and an examination of human suffering and the soul. I really think it's meant to be like a superhero kind of moment. It's about like a solitary figure going out into the world, it's going out into adventure and conquering, or at least exploring and experiencing with the help of that orchestra. And I think there's no way to avoid that. I like to look at concerti always as chamber music. For me, it's such an honor and a privilege to work with any orchestra and play these things. But there is inherent in the genre a concerto, a soloist with an orchestra that, get ready for adventure, get ready for a lot of heroism.
So that's interesting that you say that, because you are known in definitely in Canadian music circles, but around the world, as being just one of the top collaborative pianists. And I think that when an audience goes to see like a violin recital with the pianist sitting behind them, audience's members might think of that person as an accompanist.
Right.
But you use the word collaborative, which I think is really important. Can you describe a little bit about what that means to you and what being a collaborative pianist is all about?
I think making music with others is such a gift and it's an honor. It's not just like a conversation. I mean, it's actually a lot more than that. It's without words, you have to listen. It's like walking, I don't know, it's like two people, at least two people being blindfolded and having to walk treacherous paths together and developing some sort of superhuman amount of trust, and listening and activating all the senses in a way besides being able to just talk to each other and communicate this whole story, communicate whatever, all of these emotions, all of these feelings. And so the reason I use collaborative versus what was accompanist or what is accompanying is just to distinguish there is a part of our art form. I mean, it is a business, it is an industry, and there also there's craftsmanship involved. All that to say, yes, there is like a function of what we do where instrumentalists require pianists at the piano, sitting there and just helping them along doing what they're doing. There's absolutely part of that. And I actually think that's also a really important part of that job. But it's just become this place where the word accompanying or accompanist has become a dirty word not because of the word itself, but largely because of how, at least in history, these pianists have been treated. They sort of became interchangeable, and the function became to sort of, just sit there and do that thing. But times have really changed, and instrumentalists have come back around, and pianists have come back around to also take the job more seriously and take the role more seriously. So yeah, I spent a lot of time doing collaborative work. I still do an enormous amount of chamber music because I love more than anything else being on stage with other people. But at the same time, there is something very special about solo work. It's something I've come back to in the last 5-6 years, and I missed it. I miss at the same time not having to compromise, and just being able to conceive of a recital from start to finish on my own, and also take on the burden and responsibilities of doing that, but then also hopefully reaping the rewards that come with it.
Absolutely. Well, and as you mentioned, really a concerto performance is a very collaborative type of event. It is not just a matter of the soloist playing and everything that I do as the conductor or the orchestra does is not just in service of the soloist, although there are plenty of passages where that is true. But that collaborative nature is really at the key to being a great concerto soloist.
I absolutely think so. I mean, I think that's also the key of chamber music. At the end of the day, I think the adage is true that when there's more than one person, not everyone can lead at the same time, no matter what kind of music that is. So I totally agree. In concerto playing, it's the same thing. Just because I'm the soloist does not mean I'm leading a lot of the time. And it doesn't even if I'm playing the largest number of notes at that moment, also doesn't mean that I'm leading. To me, that's like a real misconception musically about what's going on. I think that sort of distorts what's happening. And so it's that give and take. It's actually, I have this huge flourish to do. I'm going to go up and down and sideways along the keyboard, and I'm going to call upon the help of the conductor and the orchestra to help me help this all coalesce into something. It's not just me leading the charge or even vice versa. I think it's a constant give and take. That's what I love about concerto.
Now, also, I would say among pianists, you are specifically known as someone who is really attuned to colors in your playing, really bringing out timbres of the piano. And I wonder if you could take just a moment and describe that to our audience, what that means to you. And I will preface this by saying, one of the reasons we chose the Steinway that we chose,
yes,
in our hall, this new Steinway that we received about 6 or 7 years ago, was because the pianist who went to Steinway Factory with me and I, really felt that this piano had a lot of variation in color and timbre and had a lot of possibilities.
Right. And so if I'll try not to be pedantic about it as I talk about it, I think from the outside, the piano looks like an on-off, like a set of 88 on-off switches. And the most impressive pianist will be the one who can turn them on and off as quickly as possible in the largest permutations, allowable. But the truth is, the amount of force, the speed with which we go to, we say strike the key, but I don't really love that word, but that we go to press the key, there are, technically speaking, like infinite variations of sound that can come out of that. And not only the single note, but really importantly also, the way that we depress one key and how we do that, and even one other key next to it, right? That's where the magic is. It's like then it suddenly creates what is otherwise a series of hammer striking strings, starts to create the semblance of a phrase, the semblance of notes connecting to each other that really, if you look deep into it, are technically connected. It's always a little spike in sound. And so for me, it really is particularly prevalent or it came alive in the Impressionist period. So I'm jumping around now, but French music, turn of the 20th century, where they started to look at what are the sounds and colors possible out of this instrument that otherwise looks like it's just a series of up and downs. I think the piano is actually, at the end of the day, it's pretty limitless, I think. And I think the only constraint is our imagination and our ears. And that's something that I'm always trying to work at, and something and so I'm excited to discover the Steinway. Those are the pianos, and those are the pianists that interest me the most. It's not the ones who play the fastest. It's not the ones who play the loudest. That used to be what it was when I was a teenager. But wow, look how fast and loud they play. But now it's the one who can string three notes together and make it seem like a voice, that can make it seem like a cello, that can make it seem like an otherworldly thing, anything besides wood and metal.
I love that. Well, speaking of your teenage years, can you tell us a little bit about how you came to the piano? How did you start? How old were you? What was the impetus?
Yeah, I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I have an older brother who at the time was taking piano lessons. So it's pretty simple. It's anything you can do, I could do better. So my brother had started, and I said, okay, time for me to start. And he would eventually quit. I wouldn't say of course, everyone's path is very different. I did not love practicing. I discovered very early on that my father was quite serious about it. He's like, okay, if you want to do music, he didn't push me into it, well, then you got to take it seriously. And so he wanted me to practice, not an obscene number of hours, but I really was not for it. I tried to quit when I was 13. It's a story I've told before, but it bears repeating. I in a kind of stunning display of rebellion, I ripped up one of my books, like in front of him. Like, I don't know where this came from, Robert. I promise you this is... He didn't say a thing. Next day, in the morning, my book was taped back together on the kitchen table, and I understood that as the sign I was going to keep going. And I'm so grateful. Like, I can't imagine what it's like being a parent and having to figure out really like when to push a child, when to encourage them, when to say, okay, this is not for you. My dad obviously saw something in me, and I appreciate that. And yeah, that's more or less it. I mean, it's a long, sort of convoluted story from there. But I would say my brother helped me get started. My dad plays guitar and sings, so there's for sure kind of artist performing blood in my history. And then from there, it's been a series of hills and valleys and all kinds of things that a life in music can mean.
Well, we love that, and we love that you're going to be sharing one of those hills and valleys with us here in Windsor at the end of our season as we perform together Tchaikovsky's first piano concerto. Philip Chiu, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Really my pleasure, Robert. Thank you for having me.